So Max and I, we are headed down south for Labor Day. We're going to have a little guys-only holiday weekend, and I thought I would take the opportunity, since we've got a little bit of a drive ahead of us, to talk about a topic that I haven't talked about on this channel since its release back in May of 2020. And if you saw the thumbnail, that would be the Evercade. Now, before we get started, I did want to point out that I don't currently own an Evercade, so I'm going to get some things wrong. So feel free to check me in the comments. I'm sure the Evercade police are going to be on it. They're going to let me know, hey, you messed up. Also, I didn't want this video to come off as disrespectful in any way. I have some friends that really like the Evercade, some that have dedicated channels dedicated to the Evercade and everything that comes out for it. I also have a friend who buys every single card, but he doesn't play many of them. Most of them are still unopened. I don't know what's up with that. So yeah, no disrespect. These are just my thoughts as someone who's looking from the outside in. I do follow some channels, so I don't know everything about the Evercade. I'm just basing this on what I hear and what I see from those channels. Also, this video might be a little bit longer than ones I normally put out, but this is the only Evercade video I've ever made. I don't plan on making another one, so I want to make sure that I cover everything. So just bear with me. Now, if you want to fast forward to the very end and find out my main huge gripe with the Evercade, then fast forward to the end. If you'd like to hear kind of my thoughts on the beginning of it from the start, in the middle, then stick with me. All right, with all that out of the way, let's get started. All right, so back when the Evercade was first announced, I was kind of intrigued because if you follow my channel, you know that I love my handhelds. And this one's supposed to have dedicated carts with these Sega Genesis kind of clamshell boxes, full color manuals. Who doesn't love a full color manual? You get stuck on a game, you go back to it. I love them. But when reviewers started getting their hands on these things and putting out videos, I was a little confused because it was all games that are currently available. These are older games. They were just compilation carts running off emulation. There was a Namco Museum, an Atari kind of compilation, and a television one, and then they really kind of embraced the indie games, which is fine. I got nothing against indie games, but I thought, like, why are people getting into this? I don't really understand the draw here. And I'm sure part of it was the fact that you're getting a licensed version of a game. So, that meant something. It's on a cart. It's about the size of a Game Gear. It's not small like a little Switch, little memory size cartridge. I don't really know the draw. Maybe the manual was the thing. I don't know, but I just couldn't understand why people were going crazy over it. And they got the numbers on the spine, so it kind of really plays on your OCD, like, I gotta have all of them because then I'll have a gap there with that number missing. I honestly thought that in 6 months it was going to go the way of the Game Gear or the Atari Lynx. It was just going to fade away because it was just putting out stuff that's already been released, or you have access to on just about any platform out there, or you could just download it onto numerous devices that are released every week, these Amber Nicks and Pow Kitties, or anything even more powerful than a calculator. So shortly after the release of the handheld Evercade, they put out the Evercade VS. Now this is a small console version of the Evercade. It holds 2 cards. You got one as a backup, so you don't have to swap out another one each time. Yeah, I don't need another console. I got enough hooked up to TVs at the moment, especially one that plays stuff that I've already access to. So this didn't interest me at all. It didn't get me to buy into this platform. So then about like a year and a half later, they put out the Evercade EXP. So this is an updated version of the original handheld. Now, admittedly, this was a better looking handheld than the original. And kind of like the Switch OLED should have been the one that they released first. But I get it. You put something out there, then you realize, yeah, we should have did this, we should have did that. So you update it. But it was a pretty fast upgrade. So it was kind of a dick move in that people that probably maybe just got into the Evercade ecosystem, just maybe bought one, now all of a sudden you just upgraded it, and I just bought the original handheld. That can piss people off. But anyway, I think it was a good improvement. Added the Tate mode, a slightly better screen from what I remember, just looked better. Now, it still had the same size screen, that 4.2 inch, which admittedly for me is just a little bit too small if I'm going to pay that much for a handheld. I would say go for a Switch Lite personally if you really wanted something that's not that big, that has a big library of games, whether it's indie, whether it's classic retro, or you got all the Nintendo first-party IPs. That would be the way to go. But whatever. Now they also put out these kind of Game Boy sized, I almost call them like stocking stuffers or cash grabs. They're called the Super Pockets. They sold them at Best Buys and a few other places. I talked about them very briefly on a Retro Gamer gift guide. I've never held one, never played one. If you don't have access to any of these games, I don't think it's horrible, but I don't really care for the form factor. It doesn't look that comfortable to hold, in my opinion. I don't think it's horrible at $60, but yeah, it's not something that I would personally buy. I think later on this year, they are doing these arcade 1-up style Countercades. Everybody really kind of got on them for that announcement. Personally, I think they're better than the arcade 1-ups, just based on what I see. I think that the controls are going to be better, the buttons are going to be better. I would have probably guessed the screen would be better. I think that this is not a bad idea. It plays all those cards. It's got some built-in games. I think the big gripe here is that you can't buy these Capcom licensed cards officially. They're just built in. The price is just really high, and it's not something I need at all. I don't know if I hate it as much as a lot of other people. It's not bad. I just think it's priced really, really high. And if you've already got a bunch of those cards, especially the arcade ones, this ain't going to be that bad. You're going to be able to play with better controls than on a controller, with the handheld or even the VS. My main gripe with the Evercade stems from the type of games that they're putting out. And when it was initially released, I thought that this was going to be original games. I thought it was going to be games that you could only get on the Evercade. And as far as I know, they have not done that yet. They may enhance it a little bit, like, for instance, the Duke Nukem collection. I love Duke Nukem 3D. The platform stuff I'm not familiar with. It doesn't interest me. That's not the way I prefer to play Duke Nukem. I give them credit for kind of remastering those versions of those platformers, but again, it's still the same games. People have access to those already. Which brings me to then Duke Nukem 3D. It was the PlayStation 1 version. You're playing it now with a controller that doesn't have dual analog support. The way that I play Duke Nukem 3D is on the Switch. Those remastered versions, they're amazing. If you haven't played those, that's the versions that you're going to want. No, they don't have a physical release on those, but I don't care. That's the way to play these games. It's so many things that have made these games more accessible. They cleaned them up, gave them better controls, save states, all this stuff. It's just the better version. And playing those PlayStation back then, first-person shooter games, they do not hold up very well. They don't look that good. They control horribly. The frame rate is terrible. That's just not the way to play those. So again, why not just put out original content? I don't get it. These Tomb Raider releases, it's great that they're branching out and getting some of these games that people have nostalgia for. I have nostalgia for those games as well. But spoiler alert, those older Tomb Raider games, they play like shit. They're horrible. A lot of people that are going apeshit over these Tomb Raider games are going to realize after they put them in that they're not fun to play at all. I mean, the graphics are just so bad. The controls, these tank controls, they've aged horribly. They're just absolute dog shit. And if you want to throw your controller across the room, if you want to curse to your heart's content, then buy this Evercade release. But yeah, you can have it. I'll take the remastered versions any day. Yes, again, there's no physical copies of those. That I'm sure they will someday. I'm sure Limited Run will put out versions of those. But oh my God, the only nostalgia that people have for Tomb Raider are Lara Croft's blocky, pixelated boobs. That's it. That's all you remember. All you remember is this chick running around looking for treasure with short shorts and a tight shirt and these pixelated boobies. That's it.
Boobies!
Don't say boobies!
Not a big deal, okay? I like boobies. You like boobies. It's boobies.
I'm not sure why the Evercade has not released kind of like like a killer app, like a game that you associate with the Evercade. Right now, like if you think of the Evercade, like well, what do you think of? I'm not really sure what comes to mind. You know, like Sega has Sonic, and Nintendo has Mario and Zelda. The Evercade just doesn't have that. I don't really get it. You know, I guess that it's probably due to money that they haven't developed their own games. I don't know why, though. They couldn't maybe pay another company to do it for them, or just, you know, again, put out a game every month. That would interest me. That would get someone like me who's on the fence to buy these original games that you have no idea, you know, if they're any good or not. I remember back in the day going into a Toys R Us and not knowing anything about a lot of the games that I'm looking at. So you just pick one based on the cover art and the screenshots on the back. And a lot of times, you know, you get lucky. The game would be really good. Sometimes they're not that great, but you play the shit out of it because you just spent your $60 or your $50 or whatever you spent on it, you know, and that was your allowance, or that was the only money you had left over that week from your paycheck, but you learned to love it. You had to love it because that was the one game you had for that month. And I just don't know why they don't do that. Every month come out with a new game with maybe one on a cart, 2 max. And that way you really look forward to it. These compilation carts just don't do it for me. And again, you have access to all these on multiple different platforms, no matter which ecosystem you're invested in. With me being the Switch, I have no need to get an Evercade. I just think it's a huge missed opportunity, and I really hope that they rethink that. I just think until you do that, you're not going to get undecided people like myself, people that are on the fence. I'm not going to invest any money at all into the Evercade. You know, it's just not going to happen. All right, so that's going to do it for this video. What I want to know from you is, what are your thoughts on the Evercade? Are you totally invested in it? Do you buy every single cart that comes out? Do you play it every day? Or, like me, are you somebody who's on the fence, who just has no need for this and just wonders why they have not released any original games up until this point? Let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. And as always, if you learned something or you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that thumbs up and turn on that notification bell so you know when I upload videos like this one. All right, guys, thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.